Hey guys, this is Pradeep, and this is one of the many videos on seleniumframework.com. In this video we are going to write very simple cucumber scenarios. The assumption here we are making is that you have already read the basics on seleniumframework.com and that you are intending to get hands-on experience on writing cucumber scenarios. Okay, so the first thing what you would like to do is you would like to have a project, and using the project we are going to create cucumber scenarios. We are using Cucumber Ruby, which has been very mature for many years, and we will be using Ruby Mine as the editor. So the first thing what you would like to do is download the template project. So if you navigate to this URL, this is already being posted on the website under code bases, and I'll again post this on the page where you're looking on this video as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and once you hit this link on the GitHub, if you are a GitHub Pro, then you can go ahead and check out the project, but I'm assuming at this point that you're a normal user who haven't used source control system very much. So let's go ahead and download the zip, right? Go ahead and download the zip, and for now I'm going to put it under my C drive, and I'll create a folder by name training. You can create whatever folder you would like to. I'll go ahead and create a training folder, and I'll download the zip file there. Okay, so once I download the zip, go to the folder. Okay, once I go to that folder, I will unzip extract all. Okay, so you can see that the folder is created here, and you open the folder. Oh, there's another folder, so I'd like to move it a level up. So I'm going to do a cut and then go a level up and then paste it here, and when it says do you want to replace, I'm going to say replace. Okay, so now if I open this folder, I would have a features folder, a cucumber.yaml, a gem file, and all of these have been already explained in the basic tutorial, intermediate tutorial, and so on and so forth. Okay, so with that said, let's go ahead and let's get started here. Let's open Ruby Mine. So as soon as we open Ruby Mine, you would see this menu here. Click open, and then point it to the folder where we have just unzipped the project. Okay, so when I unzip that, let's go ahead and look at training. Okay, select the root folder, say OK. Alright, so now you can see that the project is open in Ruby Mine. If you expand this project, you will see a couple of things. Now the first thing what I would like to do here is comment out a few things, because this project has been specifically designed for doing training for Selenium and Ruby. All of the tutorials are there on this website. So if you are someone who would like to learn Cucumber and Selenium together, then this tutorial is only focused on Cucumber. I'm not going to cover much of Selenium APIs. If you are interested in those, then you should probably go ahead and look on the website seleniumframework.com for the basic tutorial, intermediate tutorial, and based on your level of understanding. Okay, so quick things here. What I would like to do first is let me close this. Alright, so the first thing is under the hooks.rb, since been using Selenium, the browser has been open. I'm going to comment this, and I'm also going to comment this. Okay, so close this file and let the rest of them remain as is. Okay, so let's write our first cucumber step definition. Okay, so the features folder contains all the cucumber features. Okay, so let's go ahead and right click and say new file, and let's say I want to add two numbers, so I would call it addition.feature. Okay, so all of the files end with .feature. Okay, the first keyword, as we mentioned, every feature file should start with this feature colon, and we already alluded to this, that feature is case sensitive, and so whenever we typed the right value, you can see that the color of this is already blue. So the keywords will be highlighted in blue. Okay, the name of the feature, let's say adding two numbers. Okay, and I can give a description, right? In order to not feel silly when I add two numbers, okay, then I display the sum. Now so far, everything is plain description. Let's write our first scenario. Okay, so scenario is again a keyword. I would say add A and B. Okay, so something like I might say, given I have A and I have B, when I add A and B, okay, then I display the sum. Okay, this is our first simple scenario. What we have done here is we have just written the gherkin, right, describing the behavior of the system. What is the behavior? Given I have A, right, A is my variable which contains some value. Given and I have B, when I add A and B, I display the sum. Okay, now let's go ahead and write the step definitions for it, meaning the automation code behind it. Before we write, let me go ahead and run this first. So if I run it as is, there is no automation code, but if I go ahead and run this, right, what happens? You can see that it says one scenario, one is undefined, okay, and then all four steps are undefined. And you can see that the step definitions templates are already given to us. It says with the snippets, you can implement step definition with this snippet. So one practice is you can copy all of this, right, and then put it in a step definition file. But what I observed over experience is, the better way is to actually generate step definitions one after the other or all together at once. The way you can do that is left click on any of the steps, hit Alt Enter on your keyboard, again Alt Enter on your keyboard, and you can say create step definition, and then it will ask you, let me go ahead and create a new step definition file here. So I will say addition and say OK. So now it generates the template here. This is the same as what you have here, right? The same one. Okay, so in this way I can go ahead and create other ones. So I'll do a left click on the step, hit Alt Enter. I have a contextual menu in RubyMine, then so I can create all step definition at once now. So all of this is generated. Okay, so now I have to write the automation code. Given I have A, right? So I would say, let's say A is equal to 3, for example. Okay, then I have the variable B is equal to 4. Okay, when I add A and B, so let me go ahead and add A and B. A, right, plus B. I have to store it in a sum, right? So I'm going to say sum equal to A and B, and then eventually when I display it, I'll say puts sum. Okay, so all we have done is we have a variable A with value 3, variable B with value 4, have added A and B, and then displayed the sum. So if I go back to my feature file, right click and then run it, right, you can see the output, it's displayed the sum 7, right, because I have done in the last step puts stands for print with a new line. Okay, so that's an extremely simple scenario what we have written, adding A and B. Now let's say I don't want to hard code A and B here, right? I want to pass the value whatever I want to add. So what do I do with that? Okay, so let's see how we can pass string variables, okay, through the steps, and then we interpret those in the step definitions. What I'm going to do is I'm going to write a new scenario here. So I would say something like this scenario, right? Add C and D, for example. Here now I want to pass the values, okay, and I don't want to call them A or B. I want to just pass 3 and 4. So I'd say something like this. Given, right, I add 3 and 4, okay, and I'll say then I display the result. Okay, as simple as this. So I'm passing the values 3 and 4 here, and I display the result in this step definition. In this step. So let's go ahead and write the step definitions. So what will we do here? Left click, Alt, Enter on your keyboard, and let's create all step definitions, and I'll be reusing the addition.rb. Okay, so generated this templates for me. Here now you can see the first one, when we have sent string variables. Why is it a string? Because we have double quotes around it. Okay, when we have send a string variable through the steps, automatically in the step definition, right, this gets included. Okay, these are called capture groups. What it does essentially is it captures the value of 3 and assigns it to arg1, captures the value of this one, second one, and assigns it to r2 automatically. Okay, these are just placeholders, argument 1 and argument 2. I can name it anything. For now, let's just keep it as argument 1 and argument 2. So to see whether they really hold argument 1 or argument 2, let's print those values. So I'm going to say puts arg1, puts arg2. Okay, I'm not adding the numbers yet, I'm just displaying them. So if I go ahead and run this scenario now, you can see that it has printed 3 and printed 4 because I have puts arg1 and arg2. Okay, so let me go back. Now at any point, if you would like to go to the matching step definition for a step, you can hold Control on your keyboard, and then you can see that this gets underlined and it becomes a hyperlink, right? And then you can do a left click on with your mouse, and then it takes you automatically to the step definitions. Okay, so arg1 and arg2 contain 3 and 4. So I want to add the sum, right? So I'd say something like sum is equal to arg1 plus arg2, right? And then I display the sum. So I'd say puts sum. So let's see what happens if I execute this now. Okay, second scenario, if I run this, you can see that it has displayed 3, 4. What am I expecting? I'm expecting number 7, but it has displayed 3, 4. Why? Because these were passed as strings, and the program automatically will not know that these are integers because we have passed them as strings, and Cucumber only lets you pass these as strings. So it has just appended 3 and 4, right? And then display. So what if you want to convert them into integers? So the way you can convert them to integers is you can just say 2_i. What that means is you're converting to an integer. Okay, you're converting a string to an integer. Similarly, let's do the same for this. And then now if we go back and execute this, right, we see the result 7. Okay, so now in this scenario what we have seen is how we can pass string values from Gherkin to the step definition. Now let's take this a step further. We already talked about a number of constructs. We talked about scenario outline, right? We talked about background, right? So let's say I want to do a background. Okay, so if we said that background is something which represents a set of actions we want to take before each scenario runs. Okay, let's say for example, I have 2 scenarios in this file. Now before running each of these scenarios, let's say I want to do some action. I might say background, right? I would say, given I start the test case, something like that. So this contains the definition. So I'd go ahead and do something like this, create step definition, and use the same file. And here all I would do is just put starting execution of scenario. Okay, so just to show you that when we execute both of the scenarios, this first runs, it displays that, and then continues with the rest of them. So let me go ahead and run the first scenario, for example. Okay, you can see that it displays starting execution of scenario. And why did that get executed? Because it was under background. So background first is like a precondition which gets executed, and then the scenario starts. If I run the second one, does the same thing, right? Let's say I want to run all of them together. So I can click anywhere on the feature and then run this, and you can see that it has run both the scenarios. For the first scenario it printed this, for the second scenario again it printed this. Okay, so background is something where you can have one step or multiple steps. All of those steps get run before the scenario kicks in. Okay, now let me take this background off, or let it be there. Now let's go ahead and let's say we want to write a scenario where the data sets are the only ones which are changing, but the steps or the actions remain the same. So let's say I want to add a number of data sets. Like I want to add 3, 4, I want to add 5, 6, I want to add 10, 11, all of those. But then do I write scenarios for each of those? It doesn't make sense, right? Because only the data is the one which is changing. So how do we handle that kind of thing? So we handle it using scenario outline. Okay, so we say scenario outline, right? Write some description. Let's say adding 2 numbers. Okay, once we do that, you can see that it is underlined with red. The reason is scenario outline always has to be associated with examples. Okay, so I'm going to do examples and then leave it for now. Okay, now let's describe the scenario. So I might say something like this: given I have, right, I will explain those angular braces in a while. Given I have A and I have B, right, and then I might say something like this: when I add something like, I might just say when I add both, then I expect the sum to be sum. Okay, now you can see that each of these is a parameter. These are inputs, A and B are inputs, and the expected value is sum. So how do I describe this? Let's say something like this. Okay, in the examples, what I need to define is a table like this. I might say A, okay, and then say B, and then say sum. Okay. Now, what are the actual values? These are the headers, because that's how it maps these. What are the actual values? I might say something like, 2, and then 3, and then 2 plus 3 is 5, so I expect it to be 5. Then I can say 3, right, and then say 4, and 3 plus 4 is 7. I expect it to be 7, right? And let's do another one: 10, 11, 10 plus 11 is 21. Okay, so now I described the scenarios. So let's go and write the step definitions behind this. So do a left click, sorry, create all step definitions. All right, so you can see that it has created all the step definitions. Given I have A, right, and I have B, when I add both, I expect the sum to be my sum. Okay, so let's go ahead and see how that works. All right, so I might say something like this, right? At the rate, I might just say here, since I already passed the value, I'll just put the value. Okay, I'll put A. So let's see, where is B? Right, now you can see that given Cucumber doesn't really differentiate any of these keywords, and that's why we have only one step definition here, right? Given I have A, right? So A can represent A or B, any of those. Okay, so now how do I add those both, right? So this is not a very good example, what I have taken. So what I might do is something like this. take this off. Okay, given I have A and B. Okay, something like this. Now this makes more sense because I'll have two values and I'll add them in this step, and then I ultimately expect the value to be sum. Okay, so let me go back and delete this step definition and regenerate the first step definition. Alt enter. Okay, and do this. Okay, I'm going to realign this here. Alright, so given I have A and B, right? So here I'll just, print the values, or, assign them to A equal to A, right? B equal to B, and then here I would like to add them, right? Sum equal to A plus B. Now you might wonder why am I using this @ symbol here? So in Ruby, @ stands for an instance variable. Now the reason why we are using @ is because if we want to retain the state of a variable across step definitions, we would have to declare them as instance variables. Okay, so that's why we are assigning it to A, B. Here we have the sum. Now the expected sum, right? So we are using RSpec expectations, right? So I would say expect actual value is this, right? 2 equal, right? The expected value is sum. Okay, so we'll go into the details of RSpec expectations. There are many, but this is one of the simplest ones. What it essentially does is it compares the actual value to the expected value. Here the actual value for us is sum, expected values. @ sum is the actual, sum is the expected value. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this. Now when we run this scenario, we expect it to run 3 times, okay, for each of these rows. Now while it is running, we will need to know some mechanism to know that it is running. So let me go ahead and after these expectations, I would print something like test case passed. Okay, now this is a very bad way to put directly print statements here. Assertions are the right way, assertions are the right way, but for now, since we are at the very beginning, let's go ahead and do this. So let me go ahead and run this now. Okay, you can see. Alright, so again, we have seen that the expected is because we again got them as strings, but we didn't convert them into integers. So let's go ahead and do that. So convert them into integers. Okay, and if I go back here and run it, oh, so expected again is coming as a string, right? So we'll have to convert the expected into an integer. Okay, so now you can see, right, it ran all 3 scenarios, right, here. Oh, it's because I have the same description for the feature and the scenario outline. So let me take this and rename it. Let's say add or addition of 2 integers, something like this. Okay, so if I go back and run this now, okay, now you can see that it first says starting execution of scenario, right? Given I have A and B, when I add both, then I expect to be sum. So it printed test case passed, and test case pass, all 3. Okay, so that's how a scenario outline will work. We can send in a data table through examples, and the parameters also, right, being the column headers, these can be mapped in this way. So this is an extremely simple example. There are more complex examples. If you go to seleniumframework.com, go to Ruby, and then go to intermediate tutorial under test data, you would find lots and lots of examples. In fact, all of the tutorials have been described with Cucumber, and Selenium. So feel free to go ahead and use any of these tutorials. This video is purely to explain how to write a simple Cucumber scenario. The step definitions, what we can write really depends, right? We can use Selenium, we can use database connections, and so on and so forth. So in this video, what we have covered is writing an extremely simple Cucumber scenario, describing the feature scenario, describing the background, what does background do, passing strings, right, to the step definitions behind, and then the concept of scenario outline, where we can do data-driven testing by sending in data sets. Okay, that concludes this video. Thanks very much.